Good morning and welcome to Arctic Game Talk. Today we will start with some COVID news. Right now we're seeing an increase of the spread of COVID-19, and with harder restrictions we are now changing all our upcoming events for Arctic Game Lab. So many of our events and activities have already switched to digital events. But now all our planned events for the coming weeks will be digital or rescheduled. But our job of building a stronger gaming industry in the North doesn't stop because of COVID-19. We are always looking for new ways to help and promote a stronger games industry with new kinds of activities, help with business development, support of existing and new games educations, and to create value for all of you out there in your work to build your games company. For more updates on our activities, follow us on social media. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us or any of us in the team of your local project manager. And when we talk about the local news for the Arctic Game Lab, we should mention that the studio lunches are of course cancelled. The game breakfasts we have bi-weekly is cancelled. The masterclass for user acquisition will have a new date. That date is not set, but we are working on it as much as we can. We also had a plan, the game jam in Piteå for November. We will also have a new date for that, and that is not set yet either.
Yeah. Things that we do is Gamifika, which will go digital, and that's every Thursday. We gather to talk about exchange games, develop experience and inspiration. Whether you're a musician, developer, communicator, graphic designer, or just curious about the game industry, you're welcome to join us. We also are going to push forward with the Global Game Jam online this year, which is going to be held in January 2021 at 27th to 31st of January. More information to come there. We also have an ongoing introduction course to Unreal Engine. Last Friday saw the first episode of that, and 2 more episodes will be held this Friday and next Friday. There's a 3-hour class, and you can see the first episode on our webpage if you want to tag along now.
Great. And we also had a planned music and games event for December in Luleå. That will have a new date as well. That's going to be in Luleå, February the 10th. So save the date for that. It's going to become more info, but we think it's going to be a really, really interesting place for you to be if you want to work with music and games.
Yeah.
And we're also going to have a talk today together with, in collaboration with Future Games. We're going to have Johan Lindström, creative director at Grand Pike, talk about their learnings. That's going to be 13 today. And we're going to have a link for that posted in the chat.
Yes. More local news. Skellefteå studio Karja Games just released their game Scrappy. So from their release is your little duck buddy named Scrappy has been taken to another dimension, and it's up to you to rescue him. Fight your way through randomly generated levels with ever-changing difficulty, awesome power-ups, and challenging bosses. Unlock new playable characters and pets by completing challenges and collecting drops from enemies.
Yeah, and we had some quarterly report from the local Skellefteå studio Goldtown Games. They just reported positive numbers. They say Goldtown Games is on transition right now from a company with 2 published mobile games to a coming never mind, to a bigger company. With transition, they're going to have another game in development and also a platform ready to develop for third part. So they see it as a new start of the company, actually. They're also seeing that they have positive numbers. They had a reach of turnover in 13% compared to last quarter. And they also have a positive result of 4.5 million Swedish crowns. So that's very good.
Yes. And going to a little more global and event news. Paradox reports a record quarterly revenue as Crusader Kings 3 sales top 1 million. So Swedish publisher Paradox has reported record quarterly revenues. And according to the company's interim report for the quarter ended September 30th, revenue increased by 75% year on year to a whooping $57 billion. Sorry, $1 million.
Yeah. And we also have today a lot of press releases from Embracer Group. Embracer Group and its subsidiaries have, as previously commented this morning, entered 13 acquisitions agreements.
Wow.
Estimated net sales of Swedish crowns 850 to 1,050 million. And through the acquisitions, Embracer Group grows to 58 internal studios and more than 5,700 employees and contracted employees in more than 45 countries.
Wow.
So, wow.
Yeah, wow. On a very good note, video games are apparently good for well-being, says a University of Oxford study. People who play video games for long periods of time tend to report feeling happier than those who do not, the study has indicated. Apparently, they researched this on Nintendo's Animal Crossing and EA's Plants vs. Zombies. And as an unusual step, developers of the games shared anonymized data through their how long each participant have been playing. So that's cool.
Yeah. We also had a report that Gothenburg-based Thunderful Group is planning to apply for a listing on the Nasdaq First North Premier Growth Market. And Thunderful Group consists of Thunderful Games, which encompasses Thunderful Development, producer of games such as SteamWorld Series and Thunderful Publishing, and Thunderful Distribution, which includes Bergsala, Nintendo's exclusive distribution partner in Sweden. This IPO is expected to generate proceeds of 750 million Swedish crowns prior to transaction costs. And this will be used to finance more acquisitions, invest in its projects, and repay current shareholder loans. The listing will also give Thunderful Group access to the capital markets and enable it to attract more investors from both its home market of Sweden and abroad.
Really, really interesting news. And Unity has shared that their revenue is up by 53% year over year at close of first public quarter. That means that they have reported $200 million in revenue for the quarter.
Yeah, and Stockholm-based Resolution Games launches its VR publishing arm. The virtual reality developer Resolution Games has branched out into publishing as it helps other studios bring their titles to key headsets. The company says its aim is to help advance VR adoption rates across the industry by bringing more content to the more platforms. As part of this and future relationships, our studios able to use our skills honed over the last 5 years, plus to help other developers navigate all the elements to bring their existing virtual games to more platforms, says Resolution CEO Tommy Palm. He also added, the goal is to add value to all involved, including developers and platform providers, by ensuring more top quality content comes to market at an accelerated rate.
Really?
Yeah, and that's the global games news. It's really fantastic what's happening. So much good news. We also should mention we have a good conference coming up, starting actually tomorrow. That's the Game Industry Conference, usually hosted in Poznan, Poland, but now digital. And it's one of the biggest games conferences in Europe, and it's online ticketed. You have access to Meet to Match for this event, and the cost is pay whatever you like. So I think it's a really, really good opportunity. So haven't you already signed up for that? Please do that.
Yes.
So with that, over to today's speaker, Linda Kiby from Warpzone Studios. Welcome.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you.
So happy to have you here. And you've been a part of our project for quite a long time. We even when we started doing Arctic Game Lab, you were actually involved. So we've met during the time, I would say. And now you just published your own game, which I think you've actually been developing all the time since we started talking. So it's going to be super interesting to hear you present the topic about how to make games for less money.
Okay, thank you. Let me start the screen share here. There we go. So are you seeing the Zoom images as well? Yeah. Should I remove that or?
Oh, that's okay.
Okay.
That's for everyone. Yeah.
Okay. So, oops. Here we go. Developing for less money. Well, I mean, less money is not set in stone. What does that mean? But of course, we spend less money on making HAMMERTING than an established developer would do because we started very scrappy. So let me walk you through it. So this is me. I'm Linda Kiby. I started out at KTH. Then I did my thesis and then worked 3 years at Avalanche. Then I worked at Paradox for 7 years. And then after 10 years in the industry, me and my husband started Warpzone. So that feels fairly straightforward, right? But what this story doesn't tell you is all the bumps on the road. Like, for example, Avalanche turned me down for a summer job at first before I got my thesis there. I had not played enough Xbox. And then after 3 years, it was the financial crisis of 2008. And after a short while of that, they had to lay off a lot of people, me included. So that was exciting times. Paradox was actually in the same building. So I just went upstairs and started working there instead. So that was fine. But then we had to start Warpzone. And let me walk you through that. So me and my husband quit from Paradox in 2016 in the fall. And then we started the company in August, and we also got married that same month. That was a busy month, let me tell you. And this was our first logo. I mean, I like the 80s look. I think it's fine. But we did buy it on a graphics outlet for like $5. So when we saw other people using the same logo, it was a bit embarrassing maybe. So we knew we had to change it up at some point. But in the start, it was really just getting to some kind of baseline because we don't use Unity or anything like that. We have our own engine. My husband was an engine lead or the engine lead for Paradox before we left. So he had ideas on what he wanted to make, and I knew he could make it. So we did write our own engine. 2017 was a very middle year for us. We had to have some graphics to test the tech that Fredrik was building. So I drew this blue little fella, and I'm not okay, I don't think I have to tell you, but I'm not an artist, okay? But it was very much fun to draw this, and I animated him, and I got him to walk around and shop stuff. I'll show you. But oh my God, it was not the best, you guys. In 2018, we started working with an actual artist, and that improved our game a lot. So then in 2019, when we hired said artist and then eventually got a publishing contract from that. That really helped. And 2019 is also when we brought in more people. So in 2016, 2 people, no salaries. 2017, we were 3 people. 2018, we had like 2 months with the 3D person, Daniel, who made this dwarf and all our environments and everything. And then in 2019, we first hired Daniel, who made our game look good, so we could get a contract, and then we could take in 4 and eventually just 3 more people. So we're in total of 7 now. So we've been 7 for about a year, and now we actually released the game a little less than a month ago. So Team 17 agreed that it was a bit of embarrassment to have the shared logo, so they drew us this new one, which we like. And this is the game we made, HAMMERTING. I have to say this dwarf is a slight improvement over mine, but I can admit that. And then the development of HAMMERTING. I thought I'd show you a video to have some examples. And the first clip is from 2017, so you're going to see my fantastic dwarf animated. Then I have 2 clips from 2018. It still looks like it's in shambles. But then you're going to see the sharp improvement 2019 for the announcement trailer that we made. And then I have the Out Now trailer that Team 17 made with a bit of help from cinematics from us. And then a particles thing that's really a wish list from our graphics person. So here we go. Here is my fantastic dwarf. We hadn't really figured out how to remove the background yet, but we did get there. I don't think we have to watch this very much longer. I also made a smelter, by the way. Now this is 2018. And you see, oh my God, we have a new dwarf and a goblin, and the swords are anime size. And yes, there's fighting. It's fantastic. Okay, now here we're getting somewhat into shape. You can see the rooms. It's kind of the same structure that we have in the game now, in a very much smaller map. And then this is like 8 months later. So once we actually took in the Daniel, the 3D person, this just happened so fast. In January 2019, we were thinking we're not going to apply for GDC because why? We can't show anyone this. Why would they like it? In March, when he had worked 2 months, we were thinking, oh my God, why didn't we sign up to go to GDC? Because this is something we can show. And then we went to Malmö for Nordic Game that summer, and that's when we actually got several offers from publishers. And so we could pick which one we like the most, and we picked Team 17. And that's worked really well. Yeah, and here you can see that we increased the scale of the game somewhat from the previous shots. And then we have, this is how our artist convinced Fredrik that it was really time to get a particle editor into the game. No, wait, no, I'm sorry. This is the release trailer. So this is a year after the last one you saw. So we still made some improvements, but I think the foundation was there already a year ago. Mainly the UI has been made a lot better with our 2D guy, Axel. He's made some fantastic work here. The other 2 we hired are Björn for game design and Daniel for also programming. Both of them we got to know at Paradox, where we used to work. But anyway, let me show you the particle stuff. So this is before we had any kind of particle editor in the game. Like we can have little glowing bits, we can have fog, we can have all the stuff. Yeah. Anyway. So that was the game. Oh, I forgot to tell you, it's fine to ask questions at basically any point. So the release of a game. We had worked in the games industry for 10 years, so I figured we basically know what we're doing, and I've had a lot of roles during my time at these studios. So I've touched upon most points, but also I have never been the one doing everything. I didn't know what I didn't know. So the idea was to make a small game to just release something and get to know the stuff that we missed, but it didn't really turn out that way. 4 years it took, but that's with writing an engine and stuff as well. So I guess that worked. But the main points that I didn't know was the timing to pitch. I had no idea on when to show the game and how good looking it had to be, because we talked to investors before we signed with the publisher, and we turned to people who are knowledgeable of the games industry, because investors who are not, often they don't have that much to add except money, and also it's a scary business to get into. So we spoke with people who knows the industry, and we figured, yeah, well, they know we're going to fix up the graphics, right? But I don't think that's how it works. You really need to put your money where your mouth is. You need to show that you can make something. So even if it's just a small part, you need to show that you can make something really good. Because when we had a tech demo basically with my art and some art that we stole from the internet, that didn't work at all, let me tell you. People were like, yeah, nice, looks promising. And then crickets. But once we actually got the graphics in, I mean, the gameplay didn't change that much, but the graphics just made all the difference. So yeah, the game does need to look good, at least parts of it. If you can make a vertical slice, that's probably good enough. But it's hard to make a vertical slice of a strategy game. So yeah, we basically had to make the start of the game. I also underestimated how long time it takes to pitch, because when we still tried to go the investor route, I had pitch training via Sting. We were part of an incubator, and I changed the pitch and I updated it, and I met some people. I pitched to them, and they had questions and they had feedback, and then I altered the pitch and did it again and again and again, and it just took forever. I'm still glad I did it, even though it gave us nothing in money. But it was a very good experience, and I think I would do it better the next time if you want to try that again. What I also learned was how important community management is, and I mean, I was a community manager for a while at Paradox, so I know it's super important, and I know you have to really manage and take care of the players and how they feel about stuff. But I really I did underestimate how much time you need to spend on this to make it really good. If I haven't written stuff in like every thread on the Steam forum for a day, they're like, the devs, they have abandoned us. And you don't want that, because if they get that feeling and they write that, then people might actually believe that, even though we're there all the time and we update the game a ton. If someone feels that and if they write that, that's just really bad for us. So this is what we also make for patch notes. So we have a header that our Axel, our 2D guy, makes, and I just find this one hilarious. We had a bug where you can make mortar in the game, and it's hard to come by. The ingredients are rare. But once you actually got it, you had to use that to make the bigger important buildings. But then the dwarves ate it. So this is a patch note with the header we made that's to explain that they have finally stopped eating the mortar. Yeah. Okay. And about sales, I haven't checked with the team, so I'm not going to tell you exact numbers, but I can tell you that Steam Spy listed us as having sold between 50,000 to 100,000 after like a couple of weeks, and that is a lie. It's sold okay, but not that okay. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to say about that. And also, some curves look very different per game when I looked before, because I tried to figure out if if we're going to have the sharp decline that AAA games have after their release. And so far it looks like it, but we're going to try to get the tail end up by patching and doing cool releases and stuff. Okay, so the difficult parts of making HAMMERTING. Scope management for sure. And that is a part of the budget as well, because when you're out of money, you're out of money, right? And then you have to release the game. So what we made, because we weren't sure exactly when that would happen, so we made a smaller core of the game that was playable, and then we tried to maintain the playability throughout the development, really. So if we just had to release like this, we could do that. So we made an onion, basically, added layer per layer by still playable. And scope management is hard for most teams. I've only worked with I worked with a lot of different teams at Paradox, and I've only worked with 2 teams that actually released on time, like by routine. And that's a rare thing. Usually you get some feature creep, and yeah. Keeping the spirit up, because 4 years was obviously way longer than we had planned for. We were thinking we could make an engine and release the game in like 2 years maybe. So this was double the time. And at times I had a little bit of problem with keeping the spirit up. Are we making the right game? Is this too big? Is this what's going to happen with us? And to solve that, I just spoke with people. So I spoke with the team, and we got to a stage where we shared a vision of the game. What is the game? When will we feel comfortable releasing? And then we talked about this over and over to make sure we shared the same vision, and that really helped, I think. But it's hard. I think you have to talk about the shared vision, so you don't have several members of the team thinking slightly different about the game we're making. And then something that's hard is the feedback that's coming in now after release, because we get a ton of great feedback and people loving the game, but it's hard not to focus on the people who write negative stuff, because you want to reach them and you want to say, hey, yeah, I know this happened, your dwarf died, but see, if you do this, it's going to be fine. And it's just hard to remember to read the positive stuff as well. So, and not focus on solely what the ones who give you a thumbs down in Steam, what they say. Read the other ones too, because they also have feedback and stuff that they want to improve. And the game maybe is better suited for them because they already like what you started with. Oh, and we released in early access, I'd say. So there are some bugs still. And then hard part is knowing what to do after release, because our plan was if the game just sinks, then we're going to drop it and make something else. Sorry. But if the game is a hit, then we're of course going to keep working on it, and DLC and maybe a sequel and all that stuff. But if the game does okay, like it does now, it's harder to decide exactly what you're going to do. What we're going to do is obviously keep working on it and do the actual proper release. And we'll see what happens during that time, because that's going to take months at least. But it's hard to know what the cutoff point is. And that's something I'm still working on it. I think when I start to get more actual data from the Steam sales, that's going to help, because we haven't gotten any Steam report yet. It's still so new. Okay, and what can you do to try to save some money when you make a game? So this is what I've been thinking of. When we started, we didn't take any salaries because we'd been working for a long time and we had some money stashed, so we could do that. But it's easy to think that then you're developing for free, and it really isn't. You need to think of your time as also a cost. So I think it's good for everyone to just track how much time it actually takes to make the game. So you know what your cost is, and then you can calculate. So if I have a salary of like 30,000 a month, how much would the game have cost then? Because then you know if this is something you can live on when you release the game. Then you know what the game has to give in revenue, Because if you don't take salary, it feels like, yeah, I just need to sell like 2,000 copies and we're set. But that might not be true. So count instead on what you actually need to make it feasible. And then obviously a publisher or investor will help to be able to actually take salary. And we tried both routes, and what happened in the end was publisher. And I think that might be easier just because the games industry is volatile and it's hard to know as an investor what project is going to work and not. And of course, it's hard for a publisher as well, but they are, I mean, that's their business model. That's what they do. An investor often shares investments between other industries as well. So they aren't as focused. There are some focused ones, of course, and they can be really good. But an investor also want to be consulted at business decisions and stuff like that. And that could be a great thing if you have the right investor, but it can also be a bad thing if you chose the investor purely because of the money and not because what they can add to your company. So that's a kind of big decision to take, and it's not mutually exclusive. You can do both, but I spoke to both publishers and investors on that topic, and they were both kind of reluctant, both sides. So I think that can be an added hardship. If you don't have money lined up so you can go without salary, you may need to do something else, like doing game development part-time and doing consultant work, or having a full-time work and working nights and weekends on the game, or doing that while you study. There are all kinds of paths to take here. There are some pros of doing this. I've written an early start, and I mean early in life, because when you don't have a family or live in a house or something, you may have smaller expenses. So you don't need as much. So you could sit in a basement and eat spaghetti. I mean, if I only feed my kids noodles for months at an end, child services is going to come for me. So I can't do that. I have to spend more on food, for example. So that's part of the pros of an early start. Pros of a late start that I chose, having the experience of 10 years, I feel is really valuable. But also that we had some funds that we could have in our dragon pile to take from, and also quite a big network of people. When we announced we were starting this studio, we had tons of people just contacting us and saying, hey, if you need help with this, check with me, and I can do this for you, and hey, you should check this out. And that was super valuable. So a big network was also really good. But of course, you can do it in an early start as well. Like I'm pretty sure Arrowhead did, and that worked out fine, you guys. And then you don't have to have an office, of course, but if you are a bigger team, it does help to see each other from time to time and just be able to point to the screen and say, hey, look at this. Have you seen? Do you like this or this? Or yeah, it can help. And it also helps with getting to know each other better if you have been in the same place at least a few times. I know that can still be hard now with the times, but when that has passed, as I'm sure it will, I do recommend getting a co-working space at least a few times a week. An office straight away is a big thing, and I don't think small teams should get an office. I don't think we opted out from the office and went the co-working space route because just handling, I don't know, the coffee machine and toilet paper and all of that, it's not something I want to do with my day. I want to make games, and this was easier, and it felt expensive. But when I spoke with people who actually have offices, all the cleaning and stuff that you need to do, that also costs. So it's fairly similar in cost actually, plus you get the time. So I do recommend co-working space. And I mean, whatever you can make up, someone has made that work. So if you have a path you think you should take, then you should do that. And if anyone has specific questions on these things, I mean, feel free. And there we go. Did we get any questions?
Had a question in the Q&A tool. Language is the one you've used most?
For programming.
I would say for programming, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So Fredrik is old school and we use C++ with a bit of C. So our scripting language is actually some bastardized form of C++ that they handle in the engine, and I can just write the simple forms of the C++, if that makes any sense.
I also have a follow-up question on that, and that's actually if you feel it was worth developing your own engine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, maybe not money-wise, but we had a ton of fun, and now it's ours. And if we find problems in it, we can fix it easily. I remember at one point we had a team at Paradox that used one of the other engines, and they had a bug with the Mac version that wasn't fixed for months, and they couldn't do anything about it. And those kind of things is something that we don't have to handle. We can just fix it. We like having ownership.
Continuing on that path, did you make your own buildings or like level editor and stuff like that, or is that something you hack from when needed in code?
Yeah, it's all in C++.
Good. I also have another question, and that's actually if you would be able to redo all of this, what would you change?
Well, I think I would spend a little less time pitching before we had pretty graphics. Yeah, that's the main thing.
Yeah. Well, like going just what's with the name HAMMERTING? What's behind that?
Oh, there's a story. So HAMMERTING comes from Bergslagen. They had something called a Hammarting in the olden days. It was a council, a ting, that handled questions about some big ass stångjärnshammare. I have no idea what that is in English, sorry. Big hammers, basically. And it was called Hammarting, and we just really liked the name. But then ting, as in council, that word does exist in English, and it's also thing. But if we'd say hammer thing, no one would think council. So we just kept the Swedish part of that name, basically.
Nice.
Yeah.
I also have another question, actually. How did you initially select what game to make? How did you conclude to make HAMMERTING?
Well, both me and my husband, we like crafting games and we like strategy games. And we felt that this is a game we would know how to make, we would like to play, and an audience, a player base that is kind of underserved. We just felt there was room in this genre, the dwarf-like genre. And also, I like to read about other people playing Dwarf Fortress, but I haven't really been able to get into it myself. I'm like, yeah, now select tile set, and I'm like, no. And I feel this could be an alternative if there are more people like me that would like to play something like Dwarf Fortress. And I'm not saying we are as complex at all, but I'm saying that's the golden star where we would like to be in like 10 years.
Yeah. I just got one more question on that, and that's actually how to select the platform to develop for, because you're on PC now.
Yeah. Well, that's mainly
yeah.
because PC is what we know best, and it's easiest to release on. We didn't have to have a publisher. It can be hard to get hold of Xbox and PlayStation and the fellas if you don't have a publisher. So PC was an easy start. But I feel a lot of indies now come out on Switch and do really well there. So that's probably one of the first things we should port to?
Mobile?
What?
Mobile?
Oh, mobile. No, that's a scary business. That's not for me. I mean, then you have to do all this A/B testing, and it's all free to play. I mean, people do release what I call proper games with that premium games on mobile from time to time, but they rarely do well.
Yeah. So continuing that, what's the plans for the future? Upgrades to the game, etc.
We have an early access roadmap on features we want to add. One of the first ones is going to be fluids. So actually having, yeah, puddles of stuff that you can do things with. I mean, they can be lava, it can be whiskey, it can be water, it can be oil. We'll see exactly which ones we have time for. But then we'll also have more automation, so more drills and stuff. We have a beauty and decor update because people have figured out if you build a tile and then remove it, you actually get some kind of a prettier wall behind it. So they build tiles all over the base and then remove them to get a smooth and pretty wall. And I just think we should let players do that without workarounds, just going straight there. Also, farming is something we can improve a lot. And I want a fishing mini game, like bad.
Continuing on that one, we usually like hear what's going to be in the next DLC and stuff like that. But what was cut? What will never see the light of day?
Oh, yeah. I mean, since we haven't really closed off the development of anything. So when we cut something, we just say, yeah, we're going to save that for later. And then we put it last on the list. So, I mean, if the game sells well and we continue working on this for 10 years, then maybe everything will be in. We'll see.
Cool. I have a question here from Rasmus. Have you thought about selling the engine as well?
No, we have not. We have had questions about it, but our programming team feels like it needs to have more tools before we could do that. And also we need to be a bigger company, because if we sell the engine, people are going to have questions, and we are not equipped to have customer support for engine questions at this point.
Another question from the chat as well. You said that you were 7 in the team.
Yep.
What will change now after the release?
Nothing initially. Like I said, the game sells okay, but it might not sell more enough for us to actually hire someone. So, but we'll see once the reports start rolling in.
I also have another question, and that's actually regarding to community management. How soon did you start working with that?
Oh, from the start. I mean, I had a really important moderator in our Discord. Was someone I talked with a lot when I was community manager for Paradox. So I basically never stopped.
And your main channels for reaching out to the community was Discord or the Steam store, or where did you?
Yeah. Discord is where we talk most with users and where everyone on the team is and talks. But then we have the Steam forum that we have a lot of people asking stuff there. So we have to be there basically.
Yeah.
But we do have a Reddit as well. But it's I need to hang out there more. Yeah.
Now that we're in 2020 and there's COVID all abound, how did your work life and work change with working from home compared to the co-working space that you used?
Well, so we were already equipped to work from home. We had a VPN set up, and so what changed was I drove everyone's computer to their homes, and so everyone could have a work computer. And And then we started having our daily stand-ups over Discord instead. And we talk on Discord instead of just talking. And it hasn't changed that much, actually.
Okay.
It's quite nice to not have the travel time. Plus, I have the husband as the home here, so I don't feel very isolated either. I know that's
That's good.
cheating.
Good to know.
Regarding that, how has it been to have your closest colleague as your husband?
Well,
Working together so much for such a long time.
we work together. We work together at Avalanche and at Paradox, so this wasn't news to us. But we haven't worked this close before, so there was some tweaking we had to do, like how to give each other feedback that we had some issues with in the beginning. But I think we talk about that stuff and then we solve it, and then it's fine.
Good.
So talking about some figures also is like what was the how does your release figures compare to the projected figures and did they change a lot due to the pandemic, do you think?
Regarding the pandemic, it's really hard to know. It's hard to know if people have less money because they lost their jobs, or if people have more time so they buy more games. I mean, I'm not equipped to answer that question, but the projections that Team 17 had, they were spot on actually. So yeah.
Cool.
I'm all through my questions.
Yeah, and me too. The only thing I've got left here is like how many dwarves were hurt during the mortar eating time.
Oh, so many. Yeah. Unfortunate accidents happen.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. It was super nice to talk to you. Really interesting topic. We're of course going to have Arctic Game Talk again in 2 weeks.
Yes.
And then we will have Mike Elliott as a guest from the United States. He's a world famous card game designer that has been in some of the really heaviest card game developments. So I think it's going to be a super interesting talk. And he's going to talk about what he sees as the big topics in the games industry right now.
Yes.
So please join us then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Jag tror att det är ute, va? Perfect. Leave meeting. Sådär. Så, vi hann ju. Vi hann ihop. Vi fick upp bra frågor också. Vi kan till och med få in lite humor där på slutet.
Det är jättebra. Det är veckans panik där.
Kan vi försöka göra det här liksom dagen innan?
Du vet ju om att det är den 2 december. Varför inte börja?
Det är ju fusk.
Det är allt annat.
Det är inte lika spännande inte.
Nej, fan det
knepiga är ju också att det är dagsfärsk information.
Ja, det var egentligen när det så att man skulle köra avsätta i almanackan måndagen eller tisdag för att sammanställa att man har allt.
Vi sätter ju av morgonen nu på onsdagen. Det räcker tillräckligt. Vi har ju
8 till kvart över 9. Då har vi på oss att skriva manus.
Exakt. Ja, det är bra.
Ja. Nej, men det går rätt bra faktiskt. Det hade varit bra. Lamporna hade jag